The room was filled with anticipation as I prepared for one of the most critical moments of my career. The high-stakes presentation of our latest architectural project was about to begin, and I could feel the weight of everyone's expectations bearing down on me. I took a deep breath, rehearsed my opening line in my mind, and smiled at the audience. The room was a sea of familiar faces, clients, colleagues, and industry experts, all eager to see what we had been working on for months. As the lights dimmed and the projector whirred to life, I clicked the remote to advance to the first slide. But instead of the sleek visuals I had painstakingly designed, the screen displayed an error message. My heart sank as the projector flickered, and then to my dismay, the wrong presentation began playing. Panic threatened to overtake me. I fumbled with the remote, trying to get the right slides to appear, but it was no use. The error message stubbornly remained. I could feel my cheeks flush with embarrassment as the room's murmur grew louder. This was a disaster, and I could see the disappointment in my colleagues' eyes. Just as I was about to lose hope, a calm voice cut through the chaos. "Is everything okay? Can I help?" I looked up to see a tall, confident man stepping forward. He had a calm demeanor that immediately reassured me. His eyes were focused and attentive, and I couldn't help but notice the way he seemed to radiate a quiet strength. "I'm Met," he introduced himself, holding out his hand. "I noticed the issue with the presentation. Maybe I can assist?" I took his hand, grateful for any help. "I'm Lucy. Yes, please, I'd appreciate that." Met quickly assessed the situation, deftly bypassing the malfunctioning projector and using his laptop to pull up the correct presentation. In minutes, the screen was displaying the visuals I had intended to show. The room's murmur shifted to a murmur of approval as the presentation continued seamlessly. As the presentation wrapped up and the audience applauded, I was filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. Met gave me a reassuring smile, and I couldn't help but feel a spark of admiration for the man who had turned a potential disaster into a success. After the presentation, I sought him out, eager to express my thanks. "I don't know what I would have done without you. That was a lifesaver." Met smiled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "Glad I could help. It's always a pleasure to see someone handle a crisis with grace." Our conversation continued as we walked out of the conference room together, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter might be the beginning of something extraordinary. The chaos of the presentation was over, but my nerves were still rattled. As I walked out of the conference room, I saw Met waiting near the exit. He gave me a friendly nod and approached with a reassuring smile. "Hey, Lucy," he said. "I just wanted to say, you handled that well. Not an easy situation to be in." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Thanks, Met. I was completely thrown off by the technical issues. I'm grateful you stepped in when you did." He chuckled softly. "I could tell. It's tough when technology doesn't cooperate, but you kept your composure, and that's impressive." We began walking down the hall together, and I could sense that the atmosphere was now more relaxed. "So, what did you think of the presentation?" I asked, hoping to steer the conversation to safer waters. "It was really good," he said sincerely. "I could see the effort you put into it. The design is innovative. I'm working on a similar project, so I was particularly interested in your approach." "Really?" I asked, intrigued. "What kind of project are you working on?" We continued our conversation as we walked toward the elevators. Met explained his project, and I found myself fascinated by the parallels between our work. We discussed architectural trends, design challenges, and our experiences in the industry. It was refreshing to talk to someone who shared the same passion and understanding. As we reached the lobby, Met paused. It's rare to meet someone who not only shares the same professional interests, but also handles a crisis with such professionalism. "I've seen plenty of presentations, but yours stood out." I blushed slightly, not used to such praise. "Thank you. It means a lot to hear that. I've been working hard on this project, and I'm glad it showed through, even despite the hiccup." Met smiled warmly. "Absolutely, and I'm glad I could help. Sometimes it's the little things that make a big difference." As we exchanged goodbyes, I felt a genuine connection with Met. There was something comforting about his demeanor and the way he spoke. It was as if we had known each other longer than just a few hours. I looked forward to our next conversation, eager to explore this newfound connection further. For now, though, I walked away with a sense of optimism, hoping that this encounter might lead to more than just a professional relationship. The following week, After the chaotic presentation, Met and I kept running into each other around the office. What started as casual greetings turned into more meaningful conversations. It was during one of these impromptu chats that he suggested we grab coffee sometime. I was both surprised and pleased. On a crisp Thursday morning, we met at a cozy cafe near the office. The place was bustling with the hum of conversations and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Met and I found a quiet corner and settled into our seats. "I'm really glad we could do this," he said, taking a sip of his latte. "It's nice to get out of the office and have a chance to talk without all the formalities." "I agree," I said with a smile, stirring my cappuccino. "It's a refreshing change of pace." We spent the first few minutes discussing the cafe's atmosphere and our favorite coffee blends. But soon enough, our conversation shifted to more personal topics. "So tell me," Met began, "what drew you to architecture?" I leaned back, thinking about the question. I've always loved the idea of creating spaces where people live and work. My parents used to take me on architectural tours when I was a kid. I was fascinated by the way buildings could tell stories and shape experiences. Met nodded, his eyes lighting up. "That's amazing. I had a similar experience. My grandfather was an architect, and he used to show me blueprints and explain how he brought his ideas to life. It made me want to follow in his footsteps." As the conversation flowed, we discovered that our paths and interests had more similarities than I had anticipated. We talked about our favorite architectural styles, our dreams of working on iconic projects, and even the challenges we faced in our careers. "It's funny," Met said, "how we can work in the same industry and still find out we have so much in common when we sit down and talk." "I know what you mean," I agreed. "It's refreshing to connect with someone who understands the passion and challenges of this field." We also shared our hobbies and interests outside of work. I mentioned my love for hiking and exploring new cities, while Met talked about his passion for photography and how he often combined it with his travels. "I've always wanted to try photographing buildings," he confessed. "I think it would be fascinating to capture the details and perspectives that aren't always visible." "That sounds incredible," I said. "I'd love to see some of your work someday." The more we talked, the more I felt that Met was someone I could relate to on many levels. It was as if we had found a connection that went beyond the confines of our professional roles. As we finished our coffee and prepared to leave, Met turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I'm enjoying getting to know you, Lucy. It feels like we've known each other longer than just a few conversations." I smiled, feeling a warm glow of agreement. "I feel the same way, Met. It's been great connecting with you." As we said our goodbyes and went our separate ways, I couldn't help but look forward to our next meeting. It seemed like the beginning of something meaningful, and I was eager to see where this new connection might lead. Our casual coffee meetups had quickly become a regular thing. Each time we met, I found myself more drawn to Met. We had moved beyond polite small talk to discussions that felt both engaging and intimate. It was clear that our connection was growing stronger, and I eagerly anticipated our time together. One Saturday afternoon, we decided to visit an art gallery that was featuring an exhibit on contemporary architecture. As we walked through the gallery, discussing the pieces on display, I was struck by how easily our conversations flowed. "I love how this piece combines traditional elements with modern aesthetics," I said, pointing to a striking sculpture. "It reminds me of some of the projects we've been working on." Met looked over, nodding in agreement. "Absolutely. The way it integrates different materials is fascinating. It's like a visual representation of how we blend innovation with tradition in our designs." We continued to explore the exhibit, discussing each piece with enthusiasm. Our shared appreciation for art and design became evident, and it felt natural to delve into deeper conversations about our personal tastes and creative inspirations. Later, as we walked through the park adjacent to the gallery, Met mentioned his love for travel. "One of my favorite things about visiting new places is seeing how architecture reflects the local culture. It's amazing how different cities have their own unique architectural identities." I couldn't help but smile. "I feel the same way. I've always been fascinated by how architecture tells a story about a place. My last trip was to Barcelona, and the Gaudi buildings were just incredible. Have you ever been?" Met's face lit up. "Yes, I went to Barcelona a few years ago. The Sagrada Familia is even more breathtaking in person. I spent hours just soaking in the details." Our conversation continued as we strolled through the park, sharing travel stories and discussing our favorite destinations. It was clear that we had much more in common than just our professional interests. Our passion for art, architecture, and travel created a bond that went beyond the office. As we walked, Met suggested we plan a trip together to explore a new city. I've been thinking it would be fun to visit somewhere neither of us has been before. We could explore the architecture, check out local art scenes, and just enjoy the experience. I felt a thrill of excitement at the idea. That sounds amazing. I'd love to do that. It would be great to share that adventure with you. Over the next few weeks, our time together became more frequent and more meaningful. We explored local art exhibits, visited new restaurants, and spent weekends discovering hidden gems in the city. Each experience brought us closer, and I found myself falling for Met in ways I hadn't anticipated. The more we shared, the more I realized how well our lives seemed to align. Our common interests and mutual respect made every moment together feel effortless and rewarding. It was becoming increasingly clear that what we had was more than just a budding friendship. It was the beginning of something truly special. As I looked forward to our next adventure, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the chance to get to know Met on such a profound level. The journey we were embarking on was just beginning, and I was excited to see where it would lead us. Working together on a new project felt exhilarating at first. Met and I were assigned to collaborate on the design for a mixed-use development, blending residential and commercial spaces in an up-and-coming district. Our shared enthusiasm for the project made it seem like a perfect opportunity to deepen our connection, both professionally and personally. We spent long hours at the studio, sketching ideas, brainstorming concepts, and reviewing plans. The chemistry between us was palpable, and the collaborative process was invigorating. Each meeting and discussion revealed more about our working styles and preferences, and I enjoyed the way our ideas complemented each other. However, as the project progressed, we began to hit a few bumps in the road. Our initial excitement started to give way to more serious disagreements about the direction of the design. I wanted to incorporate more sustainable features and modern aesthetics, while Met was passionate about preserving certain traditional elements and emphasizing practicality. One afternoon, as we reviewed the latest set of plans, the tension finally came to a head. "I just don't see how this design integrates with the surrounding architecture," Met said, his voice tinged with frustration. "It feels too out of place." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. But the whole point is to create something that stands out. We're working in a rapidly evolving area. We need to be forward-thinking, not just blend in with the old styles. Met's brows furrowed as he looked over the sketches. "I understand that, but if we go too far in that direction, we risk losing the character of the neighborhood. Balance is key." Our discussion grew more heated as we argued back and forth, each of us feeling more strongly about our vision. It was clear that the creative process was bringing to light some underlying tensions. After a particularly intense exchange, Met and I took a break. I stepped outside to clear my head, feeling the weight of the disagreement. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. It was a beautiful scene, and it made me reflect on how we had gotten here. Our shared passion for the project had led to this moment of conflict, and it was important to address it constructively. After our heated discussion about the project, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The conflict had been intense, and I worried about how it might affect our partnership. We needed to resolve this not only for the sake of the project, but for our growing relationship. The next day, I found myself reflecting on our argument while walking through the nearby park. The crisp autumn air and the colorful leaves were a stark contrast to the tension we'd faced. I hoped that a little time away from the studio would help clear my mind and provide some perspective. Later that afternoon, Met called and suggested we meet at a quiet cafe to talk things through. "I think it's important that we address what happened," he said. "Can we meet up and discuss things calmly?" I agreed, feeling relieved that he was willing to address the issue directly. When we met at the cafe, we chose a cozy corner away from the bustle of the city. As we sat down with our coffees, Met looked at me with an earnest expression. "Lucy," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation yesterday. I realize now that our disagreement was more about our different perspectives than about the project itself. I value your ideas and how passionate you are about them." I nodded, appreciating his words. "I feel the same way. I let my frustration get the better of me, and I should have approached it more calmly. Your insights are important, and I never intended to dismiss them. We both took a deep breath, and the tension from the previous day seemed to dissipate. Met continued, "I think we need to find a way to merge our ideas. We both have valid points. And if we work together, we can create something truly special. What do you think?" I smiled, feeling a sense of relief and optimism. "I agree. Let's focus on finding a compromise that incorporates both of our visions. We both want the best for the project, and our differences can strengthen our design." We spent the next hour discussing how we could blend our ideas. By focusing on our shared goals and acknowledging each other's strengths, we managed to come up with a new approach that satisfied both of us. It was clear that our ability to collaborate effectively would make our project even stronger. As we wrapped up our discussion, Met reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm really glad we talked this out. It means a lot to me that we can work through conflicts and still support each other." I squeezed his hand, feeling a deep sense of connection. "Me too, Met. Our disagreements don't change how much I care about you or our work together. It's part of what makes our relationship stronger." We left the cafe feeling renewed, both in our professional collaboration and our bond. The conflict had been challenging, but our ability to address it openly and find common ground had only deepened our connection. As we walked back to the studio together, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The road ahead was still full of challenges, but with Met by my side, I was confident that we could face them together. Our relationship was growing, and I was excited to see where our shared journey would lead us next. With the conflict behind us, Met and I found ourselves settling into a new rhythm. The resolution had brought us closer, and there was a newfound ease in our interactions. The project continued to be our main focus, but it was clear that something more meaningful was developing between us. Our conversations, once primarily about work, began to drift into more personal territory. We shared stories from our pasts, talked about our dreams, and revealed things we had never shared with anyone else. Each revelation felt like another step towards deepening our connection. One evening, after a long day at the studio, we decided to unwind by having dinner at a small, intimate restaurant downtown. As we sat across from each other, the candlelight flickering softly between us, I felt a sense of warmth and contentment. "So," Met began, his eyes meeting mine, "now that we've had some time to decompress from the project, I'd love to hear more about what inspires you outside of work. What's something you're passionate about that you don't get to talk about often?" I took a sip of my wine, thinking about his question. "Well, I've always loved hiking. There's something so peaceful about being in nature, away from the noise and stress of city life. It's where I feel most at ease and inspired." Met's face lit up. "I didn't know that. I love hiking too. I've been to a few trails around the state, but I'm always looking for new spots to explore. Maybe we could go on a hike together sometime?" I smiled, feeling a rush of excitement. "I'd love that. It sounds like a perfect way to spend a weekend." As the evening continued, we delved into more personal topics. Met shared stories about his family and his experiences growing up, and I talked about my background and the challenges I'd faced. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I felt an incredible sense of intimacy and trust. Later, as we walked through the city streets, hand in hand, Met stopped and looked at me with a serious expression. "Lucy, I've enjoyed getting to know you better. This project and everything we've been through have made me realize how much I value our time together. I feel like I can truly be myself around you." I squeezed his hand, feeling a surge of affection. "I feel the same way. It's been amazing to open up to you and see how well we connect, not just professionally, but personally as well. I'm grateful for how we've been able to support each other through everything." Our walk continued in comfortable silence, each of us savoring the moment. The closeness we had developed was palpable, and it felt like we were building something truly special together. As the weeks passed, our relationship continued to grow. We made time for each other outside of work, exploring new places, enjoying simple moments together, and deepening our bond. The more we shared, the more I realized how significant Met had become in my life. The project was progressing well, but it was the personal connection we had developed that truly made everything feel worthwhile. With each passing day, our relationship became more meaningful, and I looked forward to the future with Met by my side, knowing that together we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Working with Met on the new project had become a defining part of both our professional and personal lives. Despite our growing closeness, the project itself was far from smooth sailing. We faced a series of obstacles that tested our skills and our partnership. One chilly Monday morning, as we reviewed the latest blueprints in the studio, it became clear that we were running into major issues. The original design had hit several snags, from unexpected zoning restrictions to structural concerns that we hadn't anticipated. "This is more complicated than I thought," Met said, frustration evident in his voice. "These zoning restrictions are going to require a significant redesign." I nodded, feeling the weight of the challenge. We knew this project would have its difficulties, but this is pushing us to our limits. We need to come up with a new strategy that aligns with the regulations while still keeping the essence of our design. We spent the next few days immersed in problem-solving sessions. The pressure was high, and every solution seemed to open up new complications. Long hours and late nights became our norm, but through it all, we continued to support each other. One evening, as we worked late into the night, Met looked at me with a tired but determined expression. "Lucy, I appreciate how focused you've been on finding solutions. It's been tough, but I'm glad we're tackling this together." I smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie. "I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Your expertise and dedication have been invaluable. We've got this. We just need to stay patient and keep pushing forward." Our collaborative efforts soon began to pay off. We reworked the design to accommodate the zoning restrictions and addressed the structural issues with innovative solutions. Each challenge we overcame felt like a victory, and our partnership grew stronger with each success. One day, after finally finalizing the revised plans, we stood back and reviewed our work. It was a tremendous relief to see everything come together, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. "Look at what we've accomplished," Met said, his voice filled with satisfaction. "It wasn't easy, but we made it through. I'm proud of what we've achieved together." I agreed, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "Me too. This project has pushed us both, but it's also shown how well we work together. I'm grateful for how we've supported each other through the tough times." The experience not only tested our professional skills, but also strengthened our connection. Facing and overcoming these challenges together solidified our partnership, both in work and in our relationship. As we wrapped up for the day, Met and I walked out of the studio, feeling a renewed sense of optimism. The road ahead was still filled with tasks, but with each challenge we faced, I felt more confident that we could handle anything that came our way. Together, we were not just building a project, but also laying the foundation for a lasting partnership. After weeks of working closely together and navigating the ups and downs of our project, Met and I found ourselves stepping into a new phase of our relationship. The professional challenges had drawn us closer, but now it was time to explore our connection on a more personal level. We decided to officially start dating, and I couldn't have been more excited. Our first official date was set for a Saturday evening. Met had chosen a charming little bistro downtown, known for its cozy atmosphere and delicious food. As I walked into the restaurant, I was greeted by the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle hum of conversation. The setting was perfect. Met stood up as I approached the table, a warm smile on his face. "Lucy, you look amazing," he said, pulling out my chair. "Thank you, Met," I replied, feeling my cheeks flush with happiness. "This place looks fantastic." Over a delicious dinner, we talked and laughed, savoring both the food and each other's company. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I found myself more relaxed than I had been in a long time. It felt so natural to be with him in this new, romantic context. The following week, Met surprised me with a trip to a nearby art gallery. He knew I had a passion for art, and he wanted to share that experience with me. As we wandered through the exhibit, we discussed the pieces and shared our thoughts on what we saw. It was wonderful to see another side of Met's interests and to explore this shared passion. "That painting over there," Met pointed out. "It reminds me of a trip I took to Europe a few years ago. The colors and style are so reminiscent of the works I saw in Paris." I looked at the painting, then back at him. "I'd love to hear more about your travels. It sounds like you've had some incredible experiences." Our discussions about art soon led to deeper conversations about our dreams and goals. I enjoyed hearing about his ambitions and sharing my aspirations. It was clear that our connection went beyond just our professional relationship. We had found a genuine understanding and appreciation for each other. One evening, we decided to take a scenic drive to a nearby park for a picnic under the stars. As we sat on the blanket, surrounded by the quiet beauty of nature, Met reached over and took my hand. "Lucy, I've cherished the time we've spent together recently. It feels like everything is falling into place." I squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of contentment. "I feel the same way. These moments with you have been so special, and I'm excited to see where this journey takes us." Our dates continued to be filled with joy and discovery. We explored new restaurants, attended live music events, and simply enjoyed each other's company. Each experience deepened our connection and reinforced the bond we were building. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself looking forward to our time together more and more. The romance that had begun amid our professional challenges had blossomed into something truly meaningful. Met and I were not just partners in work, but also life, and I was excited to continue this journey with him by my side. Our relationship had grown from a professional collaboration to a deeply personal connection, and each new date felt like a celebration of our shared moments and the future we were building together. As Met and I continued to grow closer, it became increasingly clear that we were building something meaningful and lasting. One evening, as we lounged on the couch after a cozy dinner, I felt a natural shift in our conversations. The easy laughter and playful banter had given way to a more serious discussion about our future. Met looked over at me, his expression thoughtful. "Lucy, I've been thinking a lot about us lately. We've been together for a while now, and I can't help but wonder what the future might hold for us." I smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I've been thinking about that too. It's amazing how quickly things have developed between us. I've never felt this way before." He took a deep breath as if gathering his thoughts. "I think we should start talking about what we want for our future. I'd love to know where you see us going from here, both personally and professionally." I nodded, feeling the weight of the conversation. "I agree. We need to be on the same page. For me, I've always dreamed of having a stable and loving home. I've been thinking about what it would be like to live together. Maybe find a place where we can create our own space." Met's eyes lit up at the idea. "That sounds wonderful. I've been imagining that too. It's exciting to think about building a life together. We could start looking for a place that suits both our needs and tastes." We continued to explore the idea of living together, discussing the kind of home we both envisioned. I shared my thoughts on what I wanted in a living space. Something with character, perhaps an old house with some charm and room for a small garden. Met spoke about his preference for a modern, minimalist design, which I found intriguing and refreshing. As the conversation progressed, we also touched upon our professional goals. "I know we both have ambitious careers," Met said, "and I want us to support each other's dreams. What are your career aspirations, and how do you see us balancing that with our personal life?" I appreciated his openness and consideration. "I'm passionate about my work, and I hope to continue growing in my career. I need to find a balance where I can achieve my professional goals while also nurturing our relationship. I know it won't always be easy, but I'm committed to making it work." Met nodded in agreement. "I feel the same way. My career is important to me, but I also want to make sure we're building a strong foundation together. If we're both focused on our goals and supporting each other, I believe we can achieve great things, both individually and as a couple." Our discussion turned into a brainstorming session about how we could achieve our goals together. We talked about potential career moves, how to manage work-life balance, and the ways we could support each other's ambitions. It was refreshing to hear how aligned our visions were and how much we wanted to make this work. By the end of the evening, I felt a renewed sense of excitement about our future. The conversations we'd had about living together and supporting each other's careers had solidified my belief in what we were building. It was clear that we were both committed to creating a life together that embraced our personal and professional dreams. As we settled into a comfortable silence, Met pulled me closer and whispered, "I'm so glad we're on this journey together, Lucy. I can't wait to see where it takes us." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "Me too, Met. Here's to our future and all the wonderful things it holds." With that, we looked forward to the next chapter of our lives, excited to navigate the path ahead and build our future together. As Met and I continued to envision our future together, one important step remained: sharing our relationship with our families. Both of us knew that this conversation was essential, not only for the sake of transparency, but also to gain their support as we moved forward. One Saturday morning, we sat down at my kitchen table, cups of coffee in hand, and began to discuss how we would approach the topic. I could sense the weight of the conversation, but I also felt a surge of excitement. This was a significant milestone in our relationship. "So how do you think we should go about telling our families?" I asked, looking over at Met, who was thoughtfully stirring his coffee. He took a moment to consider. "I think it's important that we do this together. It shows that we're united and serious about our relationship. But we should probably tailor our approach based on each family's dynamics." I nodded in agreement. "That makes sense. My parents have always been supportive, but they can be a bit overprotective. I want to make sure they understand that this is a serious and positive step for me." Met smiled reassuringly. "I'm sure they'll come around once they see how happy you are. As for my family, they're pretty laid back, but they might be surprised since I haven't mentioned anyone special in a while. I think it's important to emphasize how much this relationship means to us and how we see our future together." We spent the next hour planning how we would introduce the topic to our families. We decided that the best approach would be to start with a casual family gathering for each side, something relaxed where we could naturally bring up the subject. For my family, we planned a Sunday brunch at my parents' house. It would be a low-key setting, perfect for introducing Met in a comfortable environment. I would start by mentioning how much I enjoyed spending time with him and how he's become a significant part of my life. I hoped this approach would ease them into the idea. Met's family dinner was scheduled for the following weekend. We thought a relaxed dinner at his place would be ideal. During the meal, he would casually mention how he's been seeing someone special and highlight the positive impact our relationship has had on him. After we finalized our plans, Met reached over and took my hand. "I'm really glad we're doing this together. It means a lot to me to have your support as we take this step." I squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of unity. "I'm glad too. I know this is an important moment for both of us, and I'm excited to share it with our families. It feels like the right time to take this step." The days leading up to our family gatherings were filled with anticipation. I was both excited and nervous about how my parents would react. I had prepared myself for a range of responses, but hoped they would see how genuine and loving our relationship was. When the day of the brunch arrived, I felt a mixture of anxiety and excitement. Met arrived early to help with the preparations, which I appreciated. As we set the table and chatted with my parents, I noticed their curiosity growing. It was time to broach the subject. "Mom, Dad," I began, "I've been spending a lot of time with someone special lately. His name is Met, and he's become very important to me. I wanted to introduce you to him and share that he's a big part of my life now." My parents exchanged looks but then smiled warmly. "It's nice to meet you, Met," my mom said, extending her hand. "We're glad to see Lucy happy." The conversation flowed smoothly from there, and I could see the initial surprise giving way to acceptance. By the end of the brunch, my parents seemed genuinely pleased to meet Met and supportive of our relationship. The following weekend, the dinner with Met's family went equally well. His family was welcoming and open, and the conversation about our relationship was met with positive enthusiasm. It was clear that they valued Met's happiness and were excited to get to know me better. As we left the dinners and reflected on the responses from our families, I felt a wave of relief and happiness. It was reassuring to see that our families were supportive and that we had successfully shared this important part of our lives with them. Met and I looked at each other with smiles of accomplishment. "We did it," I said, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We did," Met agreed, pulling me into a hug. "And now, we can continue to build our future together, knowing that our families are on board." With that, we embraced the next chapter of our lives, ready to face whatever came our way with the support of those we loved. The weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity and achievement. As the final touches were made to our major project, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of satisfaction. Met and I had poured countless hours into this endeavor, and seeing it come to fruition was incredibly rewarding. One crisp autumn evening, we decided to take a break from our busy schedules to celebrate our recent accomplishments. We had just wrapped up a major presentation for the project we had been working on for months. The response from the clients was overwhelmingly positive, and it felt like a significant victory for both of us. We planned a special evening out, one that would allow us to unwind and reflect on our successes. Met suggested a dinner at a charming restaurant downtown that had recently received rave reviews. It seemed like the perfect setting to toast our achievements and spend some quality time together. As we arrived at the restaurant, I was struck by its warm ambiance and cozy atmosphere. Met held the door open for me, and we were greeted with a friendly smile from the hostess. We were soon seated at a table with a stunning view of the city lights. Once we were settled, Met raised his glass, a playful grin on his face. "To us," he said, "and to all the hard work that has brought us here." I clinked my glass with him, feeling a surge of happiness. "To us," I echoed, "and to everything we've achieved together." As we enjoyed our meal, we reflected on the journey we had taken. The project had been demanding, but it had also brought us closer together, both professionally and personally. We discussed the challenges we had overcome and the creative solutions we had found. It was clear that our partnership had been instrumental in our success. Beyond the professional milestones, our relationship had also grown stronger. We shared how much we had learned about each other through the process, how Met's support had been a constant source of strength for me, and how my perspective had contributed to our collaborative success. After dinner, Met suggested a leisurely walk through the park. The night was cool and crisp, and the city skyline shimmered against the darkening sky. We strolled hand in hand, savoring the quiet and the satisfaction of our achievements. "I've been thinking," Met said, breaking the silence, "about how much we've accomplished together. It's amazing to see how far we've come, both in our work and in our relationship." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "It is incredible. I'm so grateful for everything we've achieved, and for the way our relationship has deepened. It feels like we're building something truly special." We continued walking, reflecting on our journey and dreaming about the future. The successes we had celebrated that evening were not just professional milestones, but also symbols of our growing partnership. As we reached a quiet spot by a small fountain, Met stopped and looked at me with a tender expression. "I'm so proud of what we've accomplished, and I'm excited about everything that's still to come." I leaned in, feeling a surge of affection. "Me too, Met. Here's to many more successes, both big and small, and to the wonderful life we're building together." We kissed under the stars, savoring the moment and the sense of accomplishment that came with it. The evening had been perfect, a beautiful celebration of our hard work and the love that had grown between us. As we made our way back home hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of hope and excitement for the future. Together, we were not just celebrating our achievements, but also embracing the many milestones that lay ahead. Together, we created a foundation for a life filled with shared dreams, mutual respect, and unwavering commitment. Our relationship was not just a chapter in our lives, but a beautiful, ongoing story of growth, connection, and love. And as we stepped into the future, hand in hand, I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, with the strength and unity that had become the cornerstone of our lives.